Breaking news: President Biden, in his final hours, his final morning in office, has issued several high-profile pardons.
Among those pardoned this morning, Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, and the members and staff who served on the House committee that investigated the January 6th attack on the Capitol, including Liz Cheney.
Pour yourselves a cup of kofifi, my friends, because you, yes you, specifically, bleary-eyed, bottomless, and clinging fast to your Sasuke hug pillow, you have officially survived one of the worst presidencies of a century or more, and easily, without the slightest hint of hyperbole, among the top 5 worst presidents in U.S. history. Pause, take a beat, and buy yourself an ice cream. You've earned it. Though in this economy, the cone's about all you could afford. But Biden's on the case, kiddies, for after huffing one final 5-year-old for the road, Palooka Joe peered out from the White House balcony, drank in the 4 years of protracted suffering and sorrow, extended his translucent leathery digits to the people, and preemptively pardoned every political crony on planet Earth, most notably Lyran Liz Cheney, Native American multi-murderer Leonard Peltier, socialist cereal brand General Milley, and yes, Captain Coof himself, Dr. Fauci. Why, he even snuck in an 11th hour pardon for his brother, Jim Biden, who, you'll recall from my previous video on the subject, partnered with Jumpin' Joe's son, Hunter, to illegally auction off the Louisiana energy grid to communist China. After Trump signed an executive order in his first term banning anyone from ever doing that again, Uncle Bad Touch, in his first day in office, overturned that same order without sparing a single explanation for the press for precisely why banning Beijing from owning our utility companies would be a bad thing exactly. You know, Biden's awful enthusiastic about presidential pardons for a man who was born before they were invented. From Minnesota drug lords to COVID criminals on house arrest, and finally to his own smack-addicted Asiatic horse-screwing son, Biden's nearly as adept at commuting crimes as Hunter is at committing them. The list of 39 names the president has pardoned to this point makes Batman's rogues gallery look like the Brady Bunch, but as golf pants ugly as it was already, nearly no one was prepared for the teleprompted rationale. Quote, rather than accept accountability, those who perpetrated the January 6th attack have taken every opportunity to undermine and intimidate those who participated in the select committee in an attempt to rewrite history, erase the stain of January 6th for partisan gain, and seek revenge, including by threatening political prosecutions. Quick question, can you call a committee select when Nancy Pelosi is the one performing the picking? Jagoff Joe, we can't rewrite the public narrative of history. We don't have access to your teleprompter. The blathering continued. The issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in wrongdoing, nor should acceptance be misconstrued as an admission of guilt for any offense, unquote. But in amongst the equivocation and vituperation, am I the only one noticing the operative issue here? See, I come from a simpler time when people thought Cisco was the only homo in hip-hop. As such, I was under the impression the only way one could conceivably retaliate is if the party in danger of retaliation attacked first. Unless, of course, your name's Mike Tyson and Jake Paul pays you not to. Look, if I trip Slow-Mo Joe with a well-placed pebble, the only way that would qualify as retaliation is if I'm a Girl Scout sniffing victim. Otherwise, it's an attack. Remember, kids, as the alphabet news networks and even the so-called conservatives at the Daily Weimar assured us all, the January 6th committee absolutely wasn't a politically charged chode smashing, which is, of course, why they all needed a pardon. Yeah, nothing even faintly flagitious about that. Why, just yesterday I was preemptively pardoned for a string of serial murders I never planned to commit. And before the Leninites lazily rejoin, why, yes, I defended Donald Trump's Joe Arpaio pardon. And yes, as I intoned in more than one video on the subject, Joe Arpaio wasn't prosecuted for any actual illegality. After over a decade of the DOJ giving the entire Maricopa Sheriff's Department a duodenary root canal, these status stooges were forced to settle for misdemeanor contempt of court because Arpaio refused to stop doing the thing the prosecution never actually proved was illegal to begin with. That particular prosecution was about one thing and one thing alone: casting wide the buttocks of the border. And as we emerge from the mire of an election cycle almost exclusively about immigration, in which the Democrats somehow ran a literal anchor baby, understand that the ideologue invective will only intensify, as newly minted border baron Tom Homan has already cautioned us.
I think you can see the left try to control the media. They're going to show the first crying female, first crying child, and say how inhumane we are. But they won't talk about 340,000 children that they've failed to take care of. They're not going to talk about the young women who have been murdered in this country at the hands of criminal cartels. They're not going to talk about the hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children. You want to talk about family separation? They buried their children because their children were killed by a member of a criminal cartel or someone that's not supposed to be here. They'll tell one side of the story. They'll try to vilify us, but they're not going to stop us.
And right on schedule, the Crying Baby Mama Mexico movies are already in their first showing.
You have to go back, I think, you know.
With CNN, MSNBC, and AP all spotlighting the abject heartbreak of the human shields the cartels use as cover to keep the fountain of fentanyl flowing across the border.
They are American in every way. But still, they do not have an earned pathway to citizenship. And this problem has gone unsolved at this point now for decades. The same goes for farm workers, who ensure that we have food on our tables and who sustain our agricultural industry. And they too have been in legal limbo for years because politicians have refused to come together to fix our broken immigration system.
Cry harder, Kamala, you said it yourself. America is just an idea, and now they can have that idea back in Mexico, a country that suffered at least as much from our open border BS as America ever did. Consult, as always, my Why We Need the Wall rant for extrapolation on that point. But break out the barrel and celebrate now, Razor Force, for tomorrow, the flagrantly fluffed economic and employment numbers get defluffed, and then the real blame game starts for Donald Trump. But let us all hope it doesn't detract entirely from efforts to bring the Pinko pardon recipients to well-earned justice. For while federal pardons do indeed shield them from federal charges, individual states, such as the 31 of 50 that Trump carried in the electoral cataclysm 2 months previous, are absolutely within their rights to investigate and prosecute these pricks with aplomb. So Lizzo, Jimbo, Mongo McMillie, sleep tight, sweetie, because the people you oppressed and prosecuted, including the hundreds of Jan 6 detainees Trump just pardoned, are out and about, and they are utterly pissed. You arrested them without charge, held them without trial, defamed them as fascists without the faintest fleeting evidence, and now, my friend, the finger points to you. Millie, you over-decorated floppy-jowled jagoff, I live in hope they pepper spray you during your arrest. We'll call you a seasoned veteran. I'm Razor Fist. Godspeed.
The Latino vote also would have helped him.
Let me tell you about the Latino vote. I will win the Latino vote because I'm going to put them to work.
I am Nostradamus.